I'm going to assume that you're 50, even 40s, and you're like, listen, I have $1 million. I just want to retire. I don't know exactly when, but I want to know when I can retire. You want to know when work is truly optional and you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to. Pro tip, most people don't just stop working. They go, wow, good to know. I'm only going to do this amount of work. Or you know what? I'm going to take on less responsibility because I am okay. Others say, you know what? I want to spend a whole lot more than my neighbor and coworker. So I'm happy to keep working so I can spend what I actually want to the rest of my life. So my job is to make sure you understand those trade-offs. I'm going to show you a real example. And what I show you today, you have the access to play around with as well. So if you want to play around with these tools, go ahead and look in the description and you can do that along with me. So let's go ahead and hop in. My name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and vice president here at Root. If you're looking for more information on tax planning, withdrawal rates, insurance, estate, investing, specifically in regards to an early retirement before 65, you're in the right spot and I invite you to subscribe. So let's have some fun. This is a sample case, but real clients here. And you can see here are their assets. They have what's called the superhero account. I joke that that's a brokerage account because it allows you to bridge the gap if you want to retire early before you can tap into some of these other assets. So they've got $100,000 in their superhero account, $650,000, just call it pre-tax assets. They really have 403Bs and 457s and a lot of different accounts, but $650,000 is pre-tax, and they've got $200,000 of that that's Roth, both Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks. Just for simplicity, here's what they're working with. So here's a real couple. You can see they are 50 years old. Dan and Denise, real people, just changed their names. And they're like, listen, we don't know exactly when we want to retire. They don't hate their jobs, but they're like, listen, maybe we could be done at 55. And if we want to spend $8,000 a month, are we on track for that? Now, I don't prefer to even do it this way. This is just their plan. They're saying, hey, $8,000 a month after taxes adjusted for inflation, that lets us do what we want to do. And I'm like, no, you're probably going to want to spend way more. So can we go in here and play around and go, extra trips, maybe not forever, but to say maybe every year for, the first 15 years, whatever. And let's call it 20,000 a year. I like making sure people are really building this out strategically because I want them to go, what about healthcare? And what about weddings? And what about cars? And I like when this is in depth, but this is just, once again, personal preference. Some people go, listen, $8,000 a month just kind of encompasses our whole life. Maybe we're not spending it on trips, but we're spending it on giving or other stuff, so we're good. I like building it out myself, but it's totally up to you guys. So Dan's bringing in $140,000 a year and Denise is bringing in $90,000 a year. In terms of general savings, what they're doing, Denise doesn't get a 401k match, so she's not doing anything there today. And Dan, he's doing 10% to his 401k. They're also adding more to their brokerage account, but they just do it on a discretionary basis. So if lifestyle allows for it, they do that. Now, some of you are like, wait a second, don't they have a mortgage? And what about where are they living today? They're actually big travelers. And so they're travelers, they're nurses. And so they travel around and they're renting. And so people are like, yeah, but that's another expense you got to add on to there. It is. This is just us projecting out into the future. Like right now, they're able to meet their expenses because of their income and they are loving traveling. They're not going to travel forever. They're going to want a home base. So we need to add in another expense for saying, great, $8,000 a month is what you're living on today. What about in the future when now you either want a home or you want to continue renting? We want to kind of model that out. So just FYI there. All right, now I want you guys to look at what I'm looking at right here. This is their plan. And you're like, hey, are you a real advisor? Because this looks horrible. They have $1 million and they're going to run out of money at 66. I'm like, no, I am the meanest advisor because I don't want you to retire too early and run the risk of running out. But right off the bat, it looks scary, but it's not actually scary. I'm just showing this to people so that if they're like, hey, what if we do stop at 55? I go, guys, you could, and you'd run out of money if you want to spend $8,000 a month for the rest of your life. But they're like, no, we don't want to spend that. And if you guys recall before, I need to go add in those extra trips because they told me that $8,000 was everything, but I was adding in $20,000 extra on top of that. What if they're like, we don't need that? Let's just take that away and see what that does. And once again, you can play around with this tool. Well, right at the bat, they're still going to run out of money. Here they are at 66 versus 73. But look at, I always start here when anyone's in their 40s or 50s or even 60s going, I've got $1 million. What am I on track for? Because it looks scary, but it's not. And here's why. Let's assume I say, hey guys, instead of $8,000 a month, what about $6,000 a month? Do you think you could live off $6,000 a month? And some people go, oh yeah, but what about healthcare? And we'll talk about that. Well, look at what I did. They're retiring at 55. I changed nothing other than saying, don't spend $8,000 a month, spend $6,000 a month. Before they were running out of money at 66, now they're going to be 90 with $1 million. So you're like, well, that's a big difference. Yeah, it is a big difference. And this particular couple does not have children. So right off the bat, you're like, whoa. So whether it's $6,000 a month or what if it's $5,000 a month? So I like to start with what's in your control. Here's what's in your control. You can spend less or you can work longer. Yeah, then we can do all the investment strategy and the tax planning. And yeah, we do all that. But right off the bat, what if they're like, listen, $5,000 a month would allow us to do what we want to do and live the life we want to live, which I know it's not for them. But okay, look, now you're on track for $2 million and they're retiring in 5 years. This platform is really powerful to allow you to understand what do you care about most and let that be reflected. Now, this couple, I know they wouldn't be happy on $5,000 a month. So I'm like, no, we're going to spend $8,000 just like you wanted. They're like, okay, great. Then how long do I have to work? I go, well, let's assume you work till 58. Just 3 more years for both of you. 3 more years than the initial projection, of course. So here they are and they're okay. And they might go, that's great. Like, I don't want to die with $500,000. I don't have kids or anyone I want to give it to. They might be, this is perfect. We're working until 58. They might go, it's a little closer than we'd like. We'd really rather work until 60. I'd say, guys, that's great. Work until 60 and watch this. You work until 60. Well, now you're on track for $1.4 million. Is that what you want? And some people are like, yeah, I'd be way more comfortable just passing away with $1 million+. I say, great, then work till 60. The point here that hopefully you are seeing is you get to play around with this and determine what you care about most. And so I want to take it a step further and go, I want you to dream. I want you to go, yeah, $20,000 extra a year on travel. And we're wrong. It's not $8,000. It's $8,500. And you know what? Let's make it $9,000 a month because we're going to have to rent or buy a property. And I want to be able to play around with that. Well, now look what happens. If they want to retire at 60, but now they're spending $20,000 extra on travel, $9,000 a month. That's $108,000 a year. Yeah, they're cutting it close. It's $300,000 left at the end, but some people might go for it. And I'd say you don't want to go for it. And here's why. Because what if markets don't perform well? What if it's, more balanced or preservation approach? What if we are more preserved, if that's even the way to say it here? Well, now we're running out of money way too soon because our investments aren't performing well. What if you're like, no, I'm open to growth. And the fact that if my money's growing for me, I don't bother with volatility. Now we are okay. So I want you to be able to play around with these level of, hey, what if this happens well? What if it doesn't happen well? What would that mean for my plan? So this is important to be able to play around with. Now, the way I would like to do it with this couple, and this is something I've already shown them. Now, I know that if they spend I can tell it's probably going to be about between $9,000 to $10,000 a month. Let's call it $9,000 a month and $20,000 a year. Retiring at 60, it's going to cut it too close for them. So I said, listen, you guys, I want you to work until 62. And they're like, oh my God, that's so long. Do I really have to work that long? I go, you don't have to. You could spend less and retire earlier. But what I'm telling you is I know I can they're the type, you're going to want to have a home base. So I said, let's go in here and let's model out buying a property so that you can live somewhere while you're doing all your travel and retirement. So I'm now modeling out a relocation. So I'm going to need them to take assets to go purchase a property and property purchase. And let's just assume it's $400,000. Now, they are in South Carolina. And so for $400,000, I'm just assuming they're going to do a down payment. No mortgage or anything like that, just to keep it simple. Now, they're not going to do it now, but they're going to do it when they retire. So when they retire, they're going to need to go buy this property because they're going to want to have a home base. Well, watch what that does to the plan. Well, yeah, assets are growing, they're growing, and then we need a home base, and they're still going to want to travel. So they're like, whoa, that puts a big dent. That cuts it pretty close here. Yes, but now that they've got their home base, they're going to travel. They don't also need $9,000 a month. That's just what I know they need right now because they're also paying for rent. But now they're renting right now. Here they are renting while making money. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're going to spend $400,000, have a home base and go travel. So now maybe they're spending $7,000 a month, but we're including that property purchase of, call it $400,000. Well, now you can see they are okay. They did buy a home and they've got their home base and they're still traveling. They're still doing the extra trips. They're just not having to spend because they don't have that extra expense. So this is the type of planning that I want you guys to be able to model on your own. The one layer I'm going to add on to this, only because I see it very often, is what I'll outline as part-time income. So let's assume that they go, you know what, I don't know if we're really going to do nothing, but we're probably going to do something. I don't know how long I'm going to do something, but let's assume when I retire, let's call it at 60, 62, whenever it is, I'm going to do something. Now let's just say I do it for 5 years. If you even do it for 5 years, I want to show you the impact of that because it is significant. Let's assume they bring in $50,000 a year between both of them. One person could do it, the other person could do nothing, but $50,000 is coming in. Bringing in $50,000 a year for 5 years makes a bigger difference than you think. Here they are on track for $1.5 million versus not doing any part-time income. And now they're on track for $1.2 million. So the reason it has a big impact is it's not the $50,000 I care about. It's $50,000 less dollars coming from your portfolio that lets that keep compounding in these years that you're probably spending more with travel and energy and you've got your health. And I want you to, but then all of a sudden what we subject ourselves is, what if markets don't do well? And what if all of a sudden markets go down? Well, I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to spend what we want the rest of our life just because markets went down and now we're going to be in a tough spot. I want you to be able to go, no, we're in a wonderful spot. I'm not worried because I've got part-time income that's going to help weather these gaps. And so sometimes I'll tell a client, I need you to spend a little bit less, or I want you to spend a little bit more because you told me you didn't want to die with 12 million. I'm going to be pissed if you didn't fly first class because you told me you didn't have 3 children you wanted to leave $10 million to. So this is what I'll call real planning. It's not simply, okay, what's your age and risk tolerance? It's a lot deeper than that. So once again, you want this tool, or if you want a holistic approach designed for an early retirement, I encourage you to reach out. This is what we love doing for clients. So no matter if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, you can play around with this tool and it's going to help you understand where you're at in relation to retirement. And know when you're doing this, there's no right or wrong. You might want to spend way more, and that might mean you have to work way longer. And you might go, I'm happy to do it. You might go, you know what, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12,000 a month, that doesn't add to my quality of life. I don't need that amount of money. If I had way less, I would retire tomorrow. Great. Now it means you're spending less, but that might be more important to you. So ask yourself, what do you care about more? Is it working longer so you can spend more, or working less, but now you're not spending as much? And you might go, wow, I need to think about that. What would that look like for me? And don't just retire and go, yeah, I think I could get by on this. Don't get by. Retire and go, yeah, I'm living my dream retirement. And by the way, most people, they don't stop working right away when they find out this information, but they go, wow, this is really helpful. I'm going to add to my 401k or my brokerage account, and here's the impact it has, and I'm going to intentionally add more money, so if I do want to stop working or do part-time income, I could, because it's not all locked up in a 401k. This is what I really explain as core planning. Hopefully this video was helpful. Please do like this video and share it with someone. It's more fun to retire with friends, because if you're retiring and traveling, but your friends can't come with you, just not as fun. Thank you guys once again, and I'll see you in the next video.